Ladies and gentlemen, boys and ghouls, demons of all ages. Okay, I don't know why I added that last part. Anyway, hello everyone, and welcome to a special announcement for what I've got planned on Friday next week. Also, yes, you can see by the bank account, I have officially reached my goal of, it's kind of a convoluted thing. So,
Had a pretty shitty weekend that
to get things out of the way, this is actually going to be a
No
repeat
class,
theme,
fool.
but I do have
Hey,
a good
chill,
reason
man.
for
I
it,
don't want any hassle.
and this will only be applicable to people who, you know, may play this game as well. And by this game, I'm not talking about this, it's kind of obvious. Excuse me. I'm talking about VR chat. If you happen to play VR chat, then
Alright,
I'm
we
on there
might
as
be ready to
well.
move
If
on
you want
this
to know
thing.
who I am
If
on
you want to
there,
work,
it
you'll get
is
a knock on your
Drexel
door any
from
minute.
VRC1. Add me on there, chill out with me, and I'll tell you the details of what this upcoming special has to do with, you know, any of that. So to get things out of the way, the theme for this year is actually coinciding with a new story that I'm going to be doing late next month. You're probably thinking, a new story? The hell do you mean by that? So, in the past, I've done streams related to a fictional universe that I made called Solaria. And I've even referred to Solaria in the past during my Doom the Dark Ages Let's Play, where I've talked about the setting, the characters, and all that stuff. And I may have, or not may have, I've actually done a few streams in GTA Online where I was essentially cosplaying as a few of those characters. Now, where am I going with this? Let's just say that Solaria isn't the only fictitious universe that I've made. And it shares the same length of time as this other universe I'm about to talk about, which is Y2KX. You're probably thinking, wait, what? Y2KX? So, Y2KX is pretty much a code name for the story that I have coming up that now has a name which is named after that same universe, which is known as Venture. Venture itself is a it's a fictional setting much like Solaria, but the setting itself is set entirely on Earth this time around instead of, you know, a different version of Earth where there's no humans. Instead, it's just humanoid animal people. So pretty much just furries taking over the world, which is ironic because I happen to be a furry myself. But this time around, this version of Earth actually does have humans. No, they don't coexist with animal people. There are furries in that version of Earth that I'm talking about now, but that's not going to be focused on in this story. Aside from some characters that will be in the story, both in their original form and in their alternative forms that I'll be making artwork of pretty soon. But what is this stream going to be about? So, the 8th annual Halloween Hellrazers stream will be focused on this guy, who obviously doesn't drive a car, because even though he is of the age to drive a car, he doesn't have a car. He tends to either go on foot or on a bike. But I should also stress this by saying that the story that I'll be doing for that stream will also coincide with the fact that it is technically a rough draft of a future chapter of I don't know why I keep slurring my words. Like, bear in mind, I got good sleep last night, so... Anyway, it's technically considered a rough draft of what to expect in this upcoming storyline, which, again, goes under the name Venture, which is named after, well, yeah. So, where did all this come from? So, way back in the day, in 2021, I created a fictional version of Earth called Radical. It was its own self-contained universe with fictional car brands, stuff like that. It's pretty much Grand Theft Auto in real life, minus the crazy crime-ridden drama. Later on down the line, however, I created Solaria, which at the time was called the Delta Fang universe, named after a fictional video game series within that setting. But there was another video game series that was also in that same setting, which was known as Venture. So, while the Solaria universe got its name from the setting that the game Delta Fang took place in, which is Solaria, Venture was named after the video game series, but the name was not changed. And you're probably thinking, wait, Venture? What is this, some kind of weird Final Fantasy thing? No. Think of this new version of Venture as Earthbound meets Grand Theft Auto. As in, this completely fictionalized version of our own world, where you still have the US, just with a slightly different name. For example, the states have different names, and the United States of America is now the United Freedom States of America, which, you know, let freedom ring, there you go, blah. And so the states that inhabit that country, they're not all renamed yet, because I haven't had a chance to rename every single one. I mean, come on, there's 50 of these damn things. But I have renamed a good couple of them. For example, California, which of course Grand Theft Auto calls it San Andreas. In the Venture universe, it is known as Kalahari, with a C, not a K. Then you have the home state of Xander here, which is the protagonist of this upcoming story. He is from a state known as Coronado, which is based in Colorado. You know, Coronado, Colorado, it sounds very similar. And so while Colorado, you know, is colored red, that's literally what the name means. Coronado literally means crown. And so, as a further reference to that, the mountain range that goes throughout Coronado and a few other states, sorry about that, is known as the Crown Mountains. There's a few other states too, such as Texas being renamed to Tejas, which is named after a North American, well, not North American, a Native American tribe, which I think that's what it is, right? One sec. I know I'm kind of blabbering about stuff that has nothing to do with what I have planned. I'll get into the story of this Halloween thing soon, but just know that I'm looking at stuff. Oh, here it is. So the name Tejas, which it's not Tehas, it's Tejas, but you pronounce it as Tejas. You might think that sounds Spanish. Like, is it Mexican? Actually, no. What it is it's a reference to the Hassani Confederacy, which was a large confederation of Caddo-speaking Native Americans who occupied territory between the Sabine and Trinity Rivers in eastern Texas. Today, their descendants are enrolled in the Caddo Nation of Oklahoma. The Natchitoches of Louisiana. But, yeah, so that's how the state got its name. Is it's a reference to one of the Native American tribes that made up part of Texas, or at least the populace at that time. And to add further to that, according to what Wikipedia says, yeah, I know people can just edit Wikipedia whenever they want, but it says here in the names section of this article about the Hassani. The name Hassani means our own people in Caddo. The Spanish knew the Hassani as the Tejas or Texas, from a form of greeting meaning friend, which gave the state of Texas its name. So, technically speaking, Tejas's name is technically unchanged from Texas's name. It's just that it has a different letter in place of X, but it has the same meaning, and the reference is pretty deep if you There's a few other states as well, such as the state of O'Hare being based on Ohio. There's a lot of thought that I've put into this universe, and it was only recently that I've started talking about it with friends who I talk to in VR chat, stuff like that. Now, why is this important? Well, as you know, Grand Theft Auto has something in common with this new Venture universe. So, it's not called New Venture, it's just called Venture. And it's a reference to, the fact that the main protagonist of that universe, or I guess the story coming up, goes on a big adventure. And so they venture forth into, unexplored places. So that's how it got its name, is that you're venturing into unfamiliar territory and learning things about the world. So, where am I going with this exactly, now that I've yammered your ears off for like 20 whole minutes? So, the story that I'll be doing for the Halloween Hellrazers 8 is, like I said before, a rough draft of one of the future chapters of Venture that I'll be doing later on down the line. I didn't do anything! That's what you get for flipping me off, dude. Just damaged both of his doors. Anyway, okay, I'm sorry, I had to. Anyway. Right. So, in one of the chapters of Venture coming up, Alright. just kill this clown here. How many steel balls do you need to be implanted in your chest? Don't take that out of context. Okay. As I was saying before I was rudely interrupted by the frickin' psycho clown. I guess on that subject, just like Earthbound, Venture, the story is going to be quite wacky and zany with its dialogue, but it's not going to be over-the-top, goofy, fuzzy pickles, whatchamacallits. It's more so going to be bound to Earth, while also being inspired by Earthbound. You have characters with meaningful dialogues, you have characters who have aspirations. It's basically going to be Solaria, but minus the space opera action, and set entirely on Earth. And maybe a few other places here and there. So, this future chapter of Venture, which will likely be either Chapter 6 or Chapter 7, depending on what I decide on, the cast of characters that will make up the main group of the story will be traveling to the state of Kalahari. And it's there that they find out through word of mouth from the people in the city of Los Angelinos, which is, well, based on Los Angeles, that there have been some strange activities going on. You got people talking about strange flying objects in the sky, kind of like what's going on in GTA Online right now with the UFOs. Only these aren't going to be the circular flying discs. They're going to be more advanced looking. But, you know, they'll hear all these rumors and stuff, so they start, you know, asking around for info, seeing what people know and all that stuff. Then they're going to notice that some people have been acting strange, and some animals have been acting strange too, and like with Earthbound. So, you know, yeah. I think you're starting to notice a pattern here with how Venture is very much just Earthbound set in the 2000s, but it's not Earthbound at all in terms of the characters. Because you have Xander, which is this cool dude right here, in this awesome glory, which you can't really see all that well because of this damn weather. But there's some other characters, and just like with the Solaria stories that I've done in the past, which I'm just about to be concluding Solaria 3, and then going for sort of an aftermath kind of story. Actually, that's exactly what these stories are going to be called after that. It's going to be like basically, you know, what happened after, but it's still going to be considered Earth side, which is the sub-series of Solaria stories. Anyway, going back to it though, yeah, so after all that, what's next? Well, just like with the Solaria stories, let's just say a certain webcomic series will have its characters appearing in this story as well. And the way I'm going to be approaching things is done so in a way where you'll be seeing their human versions and their anthro versions at certain points in the story. So the story is going to be primarily focusing on the human versions of themselves. But at the end of each chapter, we'll be getting a glimpse into how the anthro versions of these characters are doing. because their setting is, you know, the same one that Solaria is. So, yeah. Anyway, yeah. So, with this Halloween special that I'll be doing, it's literally going to be that same storyline that I'll be doing with that upcoming chapter adventure, which, mind you, the story hasn't been started yet, but this is basically a glimpse into what I'm going to be doing. And it should be noted that, obviously, with the fact that the setting adventure is set in a perpetual 2000s era, so it's perpetually stuck in the 2000s, but that's not a bad thing, because it's like a more idealized version of the 2000s, where, like, you know that it doesn't have the same stuff that we currently have in present day, like 2025, but it doesn't really need that, because, you know, we had some pretty awesome stuff in the 2000s. I say that as someone who grew up in that era. But yeah. So, with that being said, that's all I'm going to leave y'all off with, is just its otherworldly wackiness in a way that I can only see fit. But with that being said, I'm going to go back to the casino, but in the meantime, I'm going to talk a little bit about something else. And that something else is the fact that I can't frickin' drive. You know, that something else is that, because this story will be, in terms of its in-universe explanation that I just gave, Venture, as I stated before, takes place in the nondescript decade of the 2000s. It doesn't have a definitive year, but you at least know it's the 2000s. Basically, it's a culmination of all of those years combined. So from 2000 to 2009, and maybe a tiny bit of the 2010s, but it's mostly focused in the 2000s. With some modern stuff kind of retrofied to meet that aesthetic. But with that said, I'm obviously not going to be driving this car, which you can get for free right now in GTA Online. I'm going to be driving a more American car of that decade. For those of you who favor Dodge, I think you're going to love what I have cooking. But yeah, anyway, with that being said, thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you all next Friday. See you later.